Welcome to everyone rolling in here. I'm just going to go ahead and check that people can see us, that the stream's working, and people are jumping in. Hey, Athena. Hey, Jack. How are you doing today?
Hey, Dan. Hey, Athena. Doing great. Enjoying a lovely day in New York City after a long, I guess, Hurricane Ian really, it didn't make quite the noise it did down on the Gulf Coast of Florida, but it definitely hung around here for a while as well. So finally, a lot of sunshine for us, and it's always a pleasure to be, speaking with you and Athena.
Awesome. Athena, you got caught up in that as well, didn't you?
Sorry, what did?
You said you got caught up in the hurricane, didn't you?
It avoided me because there was this hurricane named Athena that Ian got a bit scared of, so it just like went that way, right? But actually, I'm in Ohio right now, so not far from New York, and I'm in my grandma's basement. She just turned 94 years old, and what she told me is to not take things seriously and to live your best life. And so that is some good advice. And yeah, so I'm here in the basement, as you can see.
Amazing. So guys, we are here live today to talk about funding growth in the new era on Amazon. And it really is a new era, having kind of operated in this space and been on Amazon for coming on 9 or 10 years now, which is absolutely crazy. There really has been kind of different cycles of growth in the model that we all deploy to leverage the amazing platform that is Amazon. And Athena, I mean, from speaking to the hundreds of sellers that you speak to and the thousands of sellers we have inside of Titan, it's quite clear that in the last 18 months or so, there's been a major shift in this strategy that we kind of deploy against brand building on Amazon. And what used to be a competitive advantage for winning on Amazon is now kind of a non-negotiable. And with that comes with its own kind of challenges and constraints and blockers that we have to overcome as sellers. So excited to jump into this. And we've got Jack here from Payability, one of Titan's certified partners. Have done great things with our members.
And seriously, these guys have been with us since our very first event. We started Titan, and Dan and I were crazy. We're like, you know what? Let's do an event in like 6 weeks or something, right? And so we threw this event on in Orlando, and they were some of the first guys that came in and helped us and, talked to all our guys and helped them with funding. And so they've been with us since like really day one. So we really appreciate you, Jack.
Yeah, appreciate you doing it. Appreciate Payability. So Athena, let's talk about what we know sellers are facing right now. And I'm not just talking about newer sellers trying to get started. We know that big sellers that have been on Amazon for a number of years, kind of got started 5 years ago or so, sat with kind of these older products and maybe are doing a few million on the platform today, are struggling in multiple areas, from profitability to growth, to launching new products successfully, and really kind of figuring out what that future looks like. So what is it you're coming across from all the conversations that you're having? And then I'll dive maybe into kind of what we know is kind of the big shift and what we're going to be talking about on Thursday's masterclass this week. And we'll drop a bit more details here. And then Jack, I want to come on to kind of how sellers need to be thinking about kind of the cash constraints that pop up in this business and building momentum towards that growth in the future with funding. So Athena, let's start with you.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a wild adventure these last few years, and just kind of seeing how things have transformed. Right now, it feels like if you know what you're doing, if you have the right blueprint, if you have the right actions in place, I see people absolutely killing it. And I see people coming into the space, even as recent as, a few months ago, being able to build momentum when they know what they're doing. It's just the old, hacks and throwing out some crazy black hat stuff. Like that whole thing is just so from the past. And at the same time, you've got this world that's kind of got the uncertainty of, the economy and things like that. But what's crazy is that Amazon, even during COVID, even during every other dip, has just continued to grow and grow and grow. And so to me, the opportunity couldn't be stronger. In fact, I'll give you an example, Dan. I was at Sell and Scale, and I met a woman who had 4 children under 6 years old, including a 7-week-old baby, who launched her product, but because she was doing it really aligned with what you're about to talk about with the webinar and stuff that we're going to be doing, she really, really had her product. She really had her brand. She really had things set up. She's already building momentum 3 months in, And it's just incredible to see. So anyone pretending that the opportunity is over, I think is just not thinking with what is happening now. They're not thinking with the modern way of doing it. They're thinking with the old approaches, as you said, of, throwing things up there and just hoping that it all works out.
And I think that's key. I think it's right now, the success on Amazon moving forward is all about having the right blueprint, having the right framework for success, but then also having the confidence and the resource to be aggressive enough in executing it. And I know this is something you come up against a lot, both within Titan with members and also chatting to kind of sellers who are maybe coming into Titan. And it's having the confidence and the resource to be able to actually kind of compete and deploy. We're no longer in the world where you can pick up a product off Alibaba, spend a couple $1,000s, stick a logo on it, and that's success on Amazon. That era is over. That model is dead. That is no longer value. Aggregators aren't interested in buying that product and that brand, and those products are not going to compete on Amazon with all the kind of direct selling and price suppression that's coming through. And you always talk about kind of having the confidence and to build that momentum and really bring through the growth with enough force, aren't you?
Yeah. To me, it's make or break, right? If you go and you halfway do it and you halfway launch and you just kind of halfway do your listings and your products and everything, you're going to end up on page 367 and no one's ever going to find you, right? So when it comes to Amazon, when it comes to building that momentum, you need to go all in. And that does include funding. You know what I mean? Because people need to start really treating this as a real business. If you were going to open up, let's say, a restaurant, right? And in order to make it, a wow sort of restaurant, you need X amount of funds to do it. And you go, you know what, instead of spending the, let's say 100,000 or 150,000 to open your restaurant, I'm just going to go with 20. And then you don't even have the money for the chairs or the tables, or, you're just really not setting up your business. How do you expect that to actually work? So when it comes to Amazon, you have to have everything in place. You have to have the right photography. You have to have the right content. You have to have the right branding. You have to have the right product. You have to launch with enough velocity that you actually get to the top so that people actually find your listing organically. And a lot of that does, have to do with being aggressive enough and forward enough and having enough funds behind you to do it all the way. So to me, it's like in this era, you either go all in and you do it professionally, or you better, it's better if you don't. So that's really what I've been seeing.
Jack, let's move on to kind of the conversations you're having. So working with payability and helping sellers solve those kind of cash flow constraints that really, there's two things that hold sellers back. Once they've got the right blueprint, the right framework, they've got a real brand with differentiated products that they can actually defend and have content that connects to the audience they're trying to serve. The two main things they come up against are team, just operational resource to move quickly. But more importantly, funding and finance and cash to fund that growth. And I mean, generating multi-8 figures myself on Amazon a year and having sites on into the 9 figures, compounding that growth is critical for picking up that kind of J curve. So what is it you kind of see when working with sellers and coming up against cash flow constraints? And what's your advice for them in terms of how to overcome them professionally as a business owner, making sense of how to leverage finance within the business?
Yeah. So first of all, I think the key word that, I'm hearing from both you, Dan, and Athena is momentum. And when it comes down to how our funding works is we patented a solution called Instant Access. Now, for sellers that have been on the platform for less than 10 years that are of any size, we work with sellers that are doing 10,000 a month in sales, all the way to folks that are doing well over 5+ million a month. Amazon is restricting and holding your sales that you're making in reserve for 2 weeks. And again, why we came up, how Payability was formed, was to help solve for this, because with this current structure and payout structure that Amazon has in holding these funds in reserve, it can really put a damper on the ability for your members, your sellers, and Amazon sellers at large to continue having their sales, their cash flow on hand to continue purchasing inventory, deploying it towards marketing and advertising, which has become probably the most competitive space I've seen, or just area is, really tackling how to convert and see an ROI on ads, especially with how much they're growing. But that's the big thing is for us is we provide sellers with that access to daily funding that they're otherwise having in reserve for 2 weeks, not seeing. So they can continue repurchasing this inventory. They can, continue being aggressive with marketing and advertising without falling behind. And without that ability to access these funds, it really limits a seller's ability to grow.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if I was to summarize kind of what's going on for the legacy seller right now, unless you have a real clear understanding of the audience you're serving, you've developed a brand that emotionally connects with that audience, you design products that are unique, stand out, not only visually on the page, but also in their quality, and do a better job at delivering the solution that audience wants, and then connect that with brand content and communicate it effectively through your images, your video. Unless you're doing all of that stuff really well, which is what we're going to be covering on this Thursday's masterclass later this week, it's incredibly difficult right now because you've got a bunch of price suppression happening across Amazon in all categories, from direct manufacturers selling product direct on the platform. They're not looking for the same sort of margins that us Western sellers are looking for. So they're willing to go thinner on margin to go higher on volume. As a result of that, they don't rely so much on PPC and advertising because they've picked up the organic volume. So they're not paying the increase and higher advertising costs that are coming through. At the same time as supply chain disruption causing increased costs and delays in our supply chain. Again, direct manufacturers kind of circumventing some of that with the government schemes that come out of China and some of the subsidies and stuff they get. Our margin suppression that's taking place as a result of that activity compared to those direct manufacturers is just so much greater. And if sellers don't evolve into this new way of thinking and really focus on like launching a brand and differentiating products, creating IP, creating something defensible in unique product development, they are going to get left behind. But even when you've solved that piece and solved that part of the framework, you've still then got the business management side of the business, which Athena's talking about and you've just pointed to, where you have to professionally and effectively manage the cash flow in your business and manage the finances to double down and drive accelerated growth through leveraging financing. And I know a bunch of people within the network and external have worked with Payability very successfully. But one of the major questions I always get is kind of how does it work? What can sellers expect? Financing, funding, debt, those kind of words scare a lot of business owners, especially smaller business owners that maybe haven't kind of leveraged that type of facility before. So maybe Jack, talk to us about that and what sellers can expect when kind of accessing this type of financing.
Yeah, that's also another thing that I think is so important is, debt is a very big word. And in a lot of cases, it can be very, very scary. But for these, sellers within your network that are, and Amazon sellers at large that are looking to grow, that can often be, again, it's not a one size fit all, but that can be, a great way for you to really scale without having to go out of your own pocket. For us, our funding solution is actually not a form of debt. So it is specifically revenue-based. It's based off the sales that your Titan members have made in the past, as well as, again, for us, we're simply looking at the track record of the business. So we don't pull credit. We offer two core solutions. So for somebody that's looking to launch a brand, like Athena mentioned, an instant advance solution, our instant advance product might be the best way to go about purchasing and sourcing that inventory and running the initial marketing and advertising campaigns. But just to break it down, where we differentiate, our funding isn't a type of loan. It isn't a form of debt. Our two products are instant access and instant advance. So our core product, and again, in some cases, it's been complex for people to understand, but let me just break it down in the simplest of terms. Instant access makes available up to 80% of an Amazon seller's previous day's sales for them to use today. And us, again, we are looking at the account health in order to underwrite the deal. So what we need to see is 3 months of track record. We can make an exception for Titan members at 60 days. And we need to see at least $10,000 a month in sales. So the way it works is through our API with Amazon, we're able to see into the overall store's health, where we're making available up to 80% of those previous day's sales for them to use today. So say you did, $100 in sales yesterday, and we made available 80 of those dollars for you to use today. Typically speaking, our fees and cost structure, it's a flat fee based on the gross sales, is anywhere from 0.3 to 2.5%. But at 1%, and that, again, our average is somewhere between 0.5 to 1.5%. If you were making available 80 of those dollars for you to use today, our fee would be $1. So it's a very cheap form of capital. And again, it's a very effective way for sellers to not be waiting 2 weeks. They stay ahead of their buying cycle so they don't run out of, or they don't run the risk of running out of stock, which can lead to suspension. And then they can continue deploying that towards advertising and marketing and, again, level up with a competitive advantage. So that's our first product. Any questions there?
No, I think that makes total sense.
Okay.
Do you want to tell us about something else? Because I just wanted to bring something up, if that's okay, Jack, because here's the thing. Dan and I have been in this industry a long time. We love our Titan members and pretty much everyone in this community so much. And there's a lot of, events and things that just bring in everyone, and they just kind of bring a lot of outside, I guess you call it, service providers that are just pitching things, and it becomes very commercial and very uncomfortable, right? And with Titan, we treat this like it's our family, because it is, right? These are people that we love, that trust us with their lives because they know that we care deeply about their success, right? And so the reason why we want to go live, and really this came from me, is because of just how many sellers out there are struggling with cash flow. They're struggling with, being able to compete. And so for us, it's just super, super important that we are giving them any resources that we've found that are actually effective, that are actually helping them to move forward. And so, for example, like we're having an event coming up in Austin on the 1st to the 6th of November, and we've invited you guys to come in. And instead of having like booths and all these cards and things, what we want to do is have you guys sit down in like a cushy environment, have the people come and sit with you, show you what they're doing for their business, how they're trying to grow it, and see how can you help them? How can you actually make it possible for them to go from where they are to actually achieve those goals? So I can see that with these different properties that you guys have, that's going to really help them push forward. And for example, Kata, who's one of the leaders within Titan, she has $1 million SKU right now that she launched within the last year, right? That takes cash flow to keep going with inventory and things like that. So, you're going to have these resources to have this outside stuff. And so I just wanted to make sure that like everyone is familiar with what is going to drive them towards their goals. And I really believe that that's a great, great thing, what you just mentioned.
Yeah, no. And I think the other big thing too, and, again, a lot of people get scared when they think of taking out funding outside of, maybe a friend and family who's, kind enough to extend them, a specific amount of funding to get off the ground. But there's so many resources out there as well. And, for us, specifically, my biggest advice when it comes down to deciding on who to work with when it comes to funding for inventory, marketing, and advertising to grow your business is assess all of the options, right? It's never a one size fits all. And there are companies like Payability out there. There are companies, like AccrueMe, Don Henning's company, a very interesting business model, Sellers Funding, 8Fig, where again, our biggest goal is helping you understand and assess what makes the most sense for your margins and your overall growth.
Right. I love that. I love that so much. And one of the things that, we really work on in Titan is like a lot of us start out as entrepreneurs, as a solo entrepreneur, kind of in this wild, wild west of Amazon. And through this time, we've had to develop a lot of skills and really, create a real life business. I mean, with full teams and with, as we mentioned, with branding, with bespoke products, really building enterprise value into what we're doing. And, in the past, maybe you could have put some spatulas up with a couple $1,000s and keep it up. But now it's like you're really building something that's going to have a value And I think what you guys are providing makes it just a lot easier for someone to get there, because I know a lot of people that just kind of go out there and try to self-fund, and they try to, do it on their own. And, there's a quote that I love. I actually don't know where this quote comes from, but it goes like this. It goes, "The most money you'll ever lose is the money you never made," right? So I feel like if you don't go strong enough, you don't go all in enough, that you're leaving a lot on the table. And so I think that this, what you're mentioning, is just going to be extremely, extremely helpful for our guys.
Yeah,
So,
and we
Jack,
can't wait to be in Austin.
Yeah, Austin's going to be, and in Austin, we're going to be going so deep in, I keep mentioning this kind of like new era of Amazon and the new framework for success. The kind of former private label model is absolutely redundant at this point. It's no longer success. It's no longer enterprise value. And the platform's completely changed. And in Austin, we're going to be going deep into kind of all these pieces. But one part of that I know is kind of the second product you offer, Jack, is the kind of working capital piece. So you do the payment advances, totally get that. Jumping 2 weeks ahead of your cycle, having that cash available 2 weeks early. But talk to me about working capital. How do sellers look at kind of leveraging that for existing products, new products, etc.?
Yeah, so I think the big thing is with working capital in general is understanding, your roadmap of where you're going. You might have a pre-existing business that's doing 100,000 a month, maybe across 5 SKUs, but to your point, a lot of these sellers are looking to make something of their own. They're looking to bring on a new brand, and where having working capital in place, like a lump sum of funding, as opposed to just a instant access, daily funding solution to, ensure you have capital on hand to capital advance like solution. You're able to essentially invest in what you are looking to expand on, whether that's, launching a new brand entirely, and, going out and, paying for supply in bulk, and getting that discount from suppliers just because you have the cash on hand. You're looking to, spend a good chunk of that or a percentage of that towards marketing and advertising. And then, there's another element of it where you might be using it just for the operations of your business. I think the biggest thing for me and why, one of the main reasons we love working with Titan is, sellers themselves need resources and other sellers that have actually gone out and made it to advise them on their business, to serve as mentors so they can grow. And for me, it's always, funding is great and all, and it's necessary to grow. But outside of that, my biggest responsibility is ensuring sellers have the right infrastructure in place to grow, whether it's an inventory management tool, whether it is, using the right advertising software if you can't do it or don't have the resources to do it on your own. So, outside of paying for supply in bulk and launching a new brand, having a working capital like solution, like our advanced solution, could be very beneficial towards, paying for, several months worth of maybe an inventory management tool to make sure you're forecasting things out correctly as you're getting things off the ground. But that is, how I'm thinking about using inventory or using working capital solutions.
Yeah, you definitely said something there that I want to pick up on. Someone asked, I think I saw it on Facebook. Someone asked, for those that make more than $1 million in profit a year, what's your advice to those trying to do that? And for me, it's double down on what's working. It's know where your sales are coming from, know exactly to pinpoint accuracy how you're achieving them, what's generating them. And then scale comes from just doubling down on what's working. And on Amazon, that means really dialing in your PPC advertising campaigns, understanding where conversion's taking place, what type of ads are working, what placements are working, what keywords are driving the sales, and then doubling down and investing into them and essentially getting it to the ratios to a point where for every dollar you're putting in, you're making more than a couple dollars back. And then it's a case of how many dollars can you feed the machine? And that's true in any business, but in this Amazon business, it's more true than ever. And having access to working capital kind of to double down on what's working is a very smart way of growing. So then expansion and new products, obviously that carries more risk, and there's safer ways like launching variations, and then more risky ways like complete new SKUs, and even new brands. But that comes with experience and your ability to kind of execute, and kind of having confidence in your ability to achieve the results, which comes with time and comes with experience. So Athena, as we look forward to Thursday's masterclass, where we're going to be covering the Amazon brand revolution, we're going to be breaking down the full blueprint of the complete shift that's taken place, and what used to be a kind of a competitive advantage is now a non-negotiable. It's kind of required to be successful. We're going to be breaking that down on Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. And guys and girls watching this, you can get the link on our socials. And if you're on our email list, you'll get those links as well. But we're in Austin on November 1st through the 6th. And this isn't a typical event, is it? This is not an event where we've got a stage, a big projector, kind of stage talk happening all day for kind of 8 to 10 hours a day. We kind of left that behind, didn't we, a couple of years ago, and have been doubling down on really workshop environments and breaking down sellers into small groups relevant to where they're at in the business. So Titan 0 through Titan 4. So just starting out to multi-millions a year, and really going deep into kind of this conversation with laptops open and really diving into it. And Athena, I don't know if you want to kind of share a little bit more about kind of the event and Payability joining us at the event and what that might look like.
Yeah. Okay. So this comes from a long history of really just trial and error. You know, Dan and I spent 12 days straight with people in China, and we really learned directly from that experience what works and what doesn't work, right? So one of the things that we know is having close proximity to experts and people who've actually done it and are doing it now, people who are operating businesses today, not 2 years ago, not talking on stage. They don't have some thing, because what we've always known is that in order to really make progress, you need to see what's working now. So one of the brilliant things that we have in Titan is this incredible community of people that are all feedbacking what's working, what's not working. It's a true mastermind, right? And so because of the trust and because of our culture, which is really together we're stronger, it's to lift each other up, we're able to cultivate this information of what's really working. And so we know, we're not guessing. We're not, reading stuff online to figure out what's working or not working. We have data points of sellers all over the world, guys who are, multi-7, 8, even 9-figure sellers that are operating, and we also have a bunch of incredible people who also have special backgrounds. Like you guys represent finance, but we've got people in our network who are incredible at branding, at product development, at sourcing, and all these different things. And so what we know is that instead of having someone talk at you on stage and say, here's this advice, and you sit there with a little notebook and you get some great ideas, and, trust me, I love events, so I'm cool with that too, but you kind of walk away from it and you might, implement maybe 5%, right? When you're sitting there and the person's actually going over the information with you, and you're able to take your laptop and actually start to work and implement. And then if you run into trouble, you're like, hey, what was that one thing that you mentioned? And then this other person, has something that's even cooler than the guy that's talking, that happens sometimes. We've got this guy who's like, that's cool, but what if you did it this way? And then the other guy's like, well, what if you did it that way? And in the room, you get this incredible camaraderie that's just impossible to do any other way. Right? So unless you've been to one of our events and you actually experienced this in the room, it's very difficult to really explain how much we get done and how magical it really is. And so joining us in Austin from the 1st through the 6th, it's going to create a huge impact, not just in your business, but in your network. And that's just one last thing I wanted to bring up. Dan and I have been in this space for a long time, and so have a lot of the other leaders and contacts, and we've traveled the world and we've kind of met these amazing people like you, Jack. I saw you at a couple events just, in the last month, and, we got to sit on the couch and we got to collaborate, and you were telling me about the cool stuff that you're doing for sellers. And I invited you to come to this event, not because of the commercial aspect of it, but because you can do something for my sellers that I really need for them to have. I need them to have funding. I need them to make progress. I need them to be able to compete, right? And so when you come to our event, that's what you get. You get access directly to people who are going to help you move your business forward. And by the end of it, you're going to see the actual progress, which is super, super cool. And the last thing about that network thing is that if you were to try to build a network like this, it would be impossible. It's taken us 8 or 9 years of traveling the world and going to every freaking event, right? So when you walk into Austin, you're literally getting just this amazing impact of the information, the strategy, and the people and all you have to do is show up. So we're really, really, really excited to have you, Jack, and we're excited about the event, and we're excited for everyone who's coming. And if there's anyone who isn't coming and would like to come, we have a handful of seats left, and we can talk about that.
For sure. So what I've done there, guys, before we wrap up here, Jack kind of gave us permission to do this. For you guys jumping on and maybe seeing this replay here in the next 24 hours or so, Payability have a special offer, which is a $500 sign-on bonus, which is 2 times what you would typically get in the market because of being kind of a part of our circle and part of our community here in Titan. You get 2 times the sign-on bonus. That's $500 sign-on bonus. And you just need to go to join.payability.com/Titan-Network, Titan-Network, and I'll drop that in the comments below here on the posts. I know this has gone out across a bunch of socials, so I'll try and get to them all, but I'll leave that on screen here as well. And then for any sellers watching this who kind of, you're feeling that pain of price suppression in the category, maybe your year-on-year growth has slowed down or even maybe fallen flat, margins are disappearing, supply chain's challenging, Amazon PPC is increasing, your conversion rates are dropping, and you're thinking, is Amazon over? Am I struggling here? What do I need to do? Turn up to our live masterclass this Thursday, Thursday, the 13th of October at 12 p.m. at 12 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. UK. I don't know what that is in Pacific, but you can go ahead and click the link.
9 a.m. Pacific, Dan.
9 a.m. Pacific. There you go. You can go ahead and click the link. I'll drop it in the comments below on this post afterwards. Join us on Thursday. We're going to be live for a couple of hours, and I'm going to be going deep in communicating and sharing the clarity that we've gained from having over 1,200 sellers as part of Titan Network and a lot of success. We're going to be sharing some success like Matt and Kata Phipps, who launched a new brand after selling their old brand for high 7 figures. They launched a new brand and their first SKU has skyrocketed all the way to $1 million in just over 12 months from launching and then stocking out for a short time. And then other stories like Brett in our network who sold for 9 figures. I'm going to show you snippets of a brand that we've personally, myself, Athena, and some of the people have personally invested a couple $100,000 into launching because we believe in this so much and we know this is the future. So we're going to be sharing what this new blueprint looks like. We're going to be covering branding, product differentiation, and design. And I say design because you need to be designing unique, defensible products. Stop buying Me Too products off Alibaba and sticking a logo on it. That era is dead. So we're going to be talking about the product design, and then we're also going to be covering brand content, PPC, and really the main levers that you need to be pulling to be successful. And we'll also be sharing some information around Austin as well, and how you guys can join. So Jack, excited to have Payability in Austin. Excited to have you part of the crew. Athena, thank you for pulling this together. I know this area and for the future of growth on Amazon is so important, and Payability do a fantastic job.
I think, yes, thank you. And just to summarize, I think if you have the blueprint and you go strong enough and you have the support you need and you actually really treat this as like a real strong business, the sky's the limit. You know, while everyone else is kind of asleep, we're going to make it rain. So I'm really excited about that. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Can't wait to meet, the rest of the Titan Network down in Austin, the ever-growing Titan Network. And, can't wait to support you guys for years and years to come. It's been a great relationship so far, but the best is yet to arrive.
Yes.
Awesome, guys. So yeah, links in the comments below. I'll drop the Payability offer here for everyone that took the time and kind of invested into catching us here live. And then join us Thursday, October 13th, 12 p.m. Eastern, where we'll be dropping the Amazon Brand Revolution Blueprint and really walking you through what the new model looks like. And you can also learn a bit more about Austin and what's coming up as well. So Jack, appreciate your time. I know Athena had to jump and go on 1:30, so I'll let Athena run there. And for everyone else, we'll see you here very soon. Thanks, guys.
Perfect.